Most accessible.org clients already know what version of the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines they'd like to use for their audit. And we've had requests for version 2.0 single A conformance all the way up to 2.2 triple A conformance. But by far, the most popular standard is WCAG 2.1 conformance level AA. And when I am asked for my recommendation, I almost always recommend WCAG 2.1 AA. But circumstances may dictate that you go with 2.0 or 2.2. So what we're going to do is go through the graphic on the screen where we have a quick breakdown of the three versions in play. And as a starting point, I recommend that you default to double A conformance unless you have a specific reason to go with single A or triple A conformance. All right, given that, let's start with the first column where we have version 2.0. I refer to this as the classic standard. It was published in 2008. Because of this, the success criteria revolve around desktop usage. And there are 38 success criteria. So when I say success criteria, just think of requirements to meet this technical standard. There are 38 different things to account for or things to do for accessibility. Now, 2.1 was published a decade later in 2018, and this has 50 success criteria. But all that happens with 2.1 is we just add 12 success criteria to 2.0, and now we have 2.1. So if you meet 2.1, you're also going to meet 2.0. And these 12 additional success criteria have mobile considerations due to the widespread use of mobile devices. So in 2018, that was taken into account. 2.1 is obviously more recent, and it is definitely the most popular version of the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And this is in part because it's been incorporated into the law, and also because in the private marketplace, 2.1 conformance level AA is pervasive. So it's like a domino, a network effect where we have one person requiring 2.1, another person asking for 2.1 AA conformance, and it just continues. And so 2.1 AA is definitely the most popular standard. And then finally, we have version 2.2. It was published in 2023. It is the present version of the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and it adds just 6 additional success criteria to 2.1 for a total of 55 success criteria. Now, if you'll remember, I said that 2.1 had 50 success criteria. So that doesn't add up, because if there are 6 additional success criteria, the total should be 55 in 2.2. The reason why there's this discrepancy is because in 2.2, one of the more general success criterion 4.1.1 was made obsolete. And so they don't count that towards the 2.2 total. So the total is 55 success criteria. But just note that 2.1 preserves that general success criterion of 4.1.1. And so I'm talking a lot about this. It's not really that important. The important takeaway is that there are just 6 additional success criteria that you need to account for 2.2. Now, the reason why 2.1 is the most prevalent is because, again, that is the usually the threshold for compliance with a given law. It's also what the request usually is, and it incorporates some mobile considerations. It does provide for comprehensive accessibility. It does, if you are 2.1 AA conformant, you will provide an excellent experience for people with disabilities. So 2.1 AA is very favorable. It's the most popular, and so we usually go with 2.1 AA. However, if you want to just go ahead and go with these additional 6 success criteria in 2.2, that's certainly understandable. But given that most projects already are difficult enough and there are already enough accessibility issues to work through, and with the addition of the other reasons that I've already stated, 2.1 is usually what most clients go with. But again, I can certainly understand if someone wants to go just that extra length and decide, hey, I want to, while we're here, while we're doing this, we might as well work to 2.2. I can certainly understand that. And again, with 2.2, if you meet 2.2, you're also going to meet 2.0 and 2.1. So 2.2 is definitely something to strive for, but it may be something where you have this first phase of your project where you're just focusing in on 2.1 because there's already enough to work through. And then in the next phase of your project, maybe next year, then that's when you start trying to build upon your efforts with 2.1 and you work towards 2.2 conformance. It's not that you can't take care of everything all at once. It's just that it is a significant effort, and it's definitely a project that you will need to work through. So 2.2 is ambitious, but definitely doable. But again, for most clients, I'm going to recommend 2.1. And then in some cases, 2.0 may be the choice. And so one other consideration here is this: if you want a statement of conformance, if you want certification, if there are some of the success criteria that are in 2.1 or that were added in 2.2 that you don't currently meet, but you still want this documentation, you may want to go back to 2.0, and then it's easier to reach this level of conformance where you can get documentation. So that's one really compelling reason why you may want to actually go back to 2.0 and go to this classic standard. And so here you're getting more foundational accessibility versus in 2.1 and 2.2, you're getting accessibility that's catching up to more modern usage and different technologies in play. So there are additional considerations that are added. If you are conformant with 2.0, 2.1, or 2.2, you are already doing an excellent job. It's just as you move up, you really enhance your accessibility that much more. So this is a nice breakdown of these three different versions of the web content accessibility guidelines. Again, it's going to really depend on your situation. I recently had a client where they wanted an ACR. You may know an ACR as a VPAT. They wanted an ACR for version 2.0 because the web app that we were going to be auditing was for desktop usage only. So here 2.0 made more sense. Also, again, similar to the conformance statement, their ACR was going to be cleaner because there was going to be less potential accessibility issues that they could be non-conformant with. So usually you want to choose 2.1 AA, but if there is another reason why you may not want to, then that's something that we can go over with if you'd like to talk about an audit or talk about your accessibility project. That's something we can go over with, but usually I'm going to recommend 2.1 AA, and then otherwise it just comes down to your specific situation. So I will include links to accessible.org, our pricing, and our services in the description. And then if you would like to reach out to me directly, I will also include a link to our contact page.